Hello everyone, myself Prashant Mukhopadhyay, faculty member, Electrical Engineering Department, Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management. So in our last class of Electrical Machine 2, we have super discussed about the say induction machines, torque slip characteristics, then equivalent circuits. Then in the last class we have drawn the phasor diagram of induction motor at standstill condition and at full load conditions. So not only that, we have covered say different type of losses, efficiency calculations of induction machines. Also we have say work out some related problems. Now today we'll discuss the effect of parameter variations on torque speed characteristics, like variation of rotor and stator resistance, stator voltage and frequency. So firstly, we have already discussed basically about the rotor torque and rotor power factor. So what is the relation between these two? So with this it will help us to find out the effect of the parameter variations on torque and hence the torque speed characteristics. So basically we know, as in case of DC motor, torque actually proportional to the product of the flux and the armature current. Similarly, in case of induction motor also, the torque is also proportional to the product of flux per stator pole and the rotor current. Okay, so however there is one more factor that has to be taken into account, that is power factor of the rotor. Okay, so more or less similar, but here also the flux per pole of the stator pole and rotor current is present, but in addition to that, power factor is also an important factor for say deciding the torque of induction motor to actually develop torque. So if we take into the consideration, then torque equation will be proportional to phi I2 cos phi 2, where you know the I2 is the rotor current at standstill condition and cos phi 2 is the rotor power factor actually at standstill condition. That is it is the angle, phi 2 is the angle between the rotor induced EMF and rotor current. And if we say equate these equations, this will be torque is equal to k phi e I2 cos phi 2, k is a constant. So if we denote rotor induced EMF at standstill condition E2, like was earlier also, so we can see that E2 is directly proportional to phi. Okay, so torque in that case can be written as proportional to torque is proportional to E2 I2 cos phi 2. So or we can say torque equal to K1 E2 I2 cos phi 2. So K1 is another proportionality constant. So if we the effect of rotor power factor on the rotor torque can be illustrated in this figure. This is the rotor torque. Okay, this is rotor induced EMF. This is the stator current actually, and this is actually flux. You see, this is flux. Okay, this is actually flux. This is E2. Okay, this is stator current I1 and this is flux. So in that case, if you take the product, so it will be like this. Okay, this is positive, this is average torque. Okay, so from this figure we find that for various values of I2, so the effect of rotor power factor on the torque is given at different values of the say power factor angle, that is the phi 2. So it is clear that as phi 2 increases um, from the increases and hence cos phi 2 decreases, the torque decreases and vice versa. So phi 2 increases mean part cos phi 2 decreases, and accordingly this torque will be decreased. So in these discussions we follow that the stator flux distribution is assumed sinusoidal, and the revolving flux induces in each rotor conductor or bar and EMF whose value depends on the flux density in which conductor is lying at a instant constant, because E is actually equal to BLV. B is the flux density and the length of the conductor, and V is the velocity. So hence the induced EMF in the rotor is also sinusoidal. Okay. Now if we assume this rotor is non-inductive, so if it is non-inductive, that means reactance part is 0, so R phi 2 equal to 0. So in this case rotor current I2 will be in phase, I2 is in phase should be with E2, that is the induced EMF. So actually the instantaneous value of the torque acting on each rotor conductor is given by the product of the instantaneous value of the flux and the rotor current, that is this is F is proportional to BI2 into L. Hence torque up is obtained by plotting the product of flux or flux density B and I2, and that is the torque is always positive in any direction, that is shown here. Okay, so this is so it is product is always a positive, and that's why this is like this. Okay, now if we think rotor is inductive, so if rotor is inductive, in that case current I2, rotor current, should lags behind rotor induced EMF P2 by the angle phi 2, which is nothing but phi 2 equal to tan inverse of x2 by R2. If we take this impedance angle, so this is R2 and this is x2, this is impedance Z2, and this is the phi 2. So phi 2 is tan inverse of x2 by R2. Okay, so R2 is the rotor resistance part phase, and x2 is the rotor reactance part phase at standstill condition. Now that it is seen that for a portion this AB of the pole pitch, the torque is negative, that is reversed. Hence the total torque, which is the difference of the forward and the backward torque, so will be like this. Okay, so total torque will be the forward and backward torque. The difference of these two is considerably reduced, definitely, and if phi 2 is 90 degree, phi 2 90 degree means cos phi 2 equal to 0, that means power factor is 0, then the total torque will be how much? Cos phi 2 0 means total torque is also 0. So because in that case the backward and the forward torques becomes equal and opposite. Okay, and so it is clear from this figures, so these two will as we have discussed. Okay, now if we take the condition of the starting torque, so starting torque is torque developed by the motor at the instant of starting. Okay, and so definitely this torque is called starting torque, and in some cases it is greater than normal running torque, whereas in some other cases it somewhat less. Okay, now if we think rotor resistance part phase at standstill condition is capital E2, and rotor resistance part phase is R2, and X2 is the rotor reactance per phase at standstill condition. Then rotor impedance per phase at standstill condition will be Z2 equal to root over of say R2 square plus X2 square, and rotor current will be at standstill condition per phase, it is E2 by Z2, that is E2 by root over of R2 square plus X2 square, and cos phi 2 equal to R2 by Z2. So and Z2 equal to root over of R2 square plus X2 square. So R2 by root over of R2 square plus X2 square equal to cos phi 2. So standstill or starting torque, if we denote it as ST, then it will be K1 E2 I2 cos phi 2. And so starting torque equal to K1 E2. If we put the value of I2 here, this is this, and the cos phi 2 is this. So your starting torque will be K1 E2 square R2 by R2 square plus X2 square. Now if the supply voltage B is constant, then the flux phi and hence E2 are both constant, and in that case starting torque will be K2. So if this plus this constant, then K2 R2 by R2 square plus X2 square, so equal to K2 R2 by Z2 square. K2 is another constant. So now K1 equal to if we put 3 by twice by Ns, then starting torque will be 3 by twice by Ns E2 square R2 by R2 square plus X2, and Ns is the synchronous speed in RPS. Okay, so if in this way the starting torque expression is like this, so why it is required? Because this has certain effect on the say parameter of say R2 certain resistance and rotor resistance also. So starting torque of a squirrel cage motor is like this. The squirrel cage motor is cage rotor type. It is squirrel cage having rotor resistance is fixed and small as compared to its reactance, which is very large especially. And at the starting, because at standstill, the frequency of the rotor current is equal to the supply frequency, and hence the starting current I2 of the rotor, though very large in magnitude, lags by a very large angle behind E2, and with the result that the starting torque per ampere is very poor. So it is roughly 1.5 times the full load torque, although the starting current is 5 to 7 times the full load current. And such motors are not useful where the motor has to start against heavy loads. Okay. And starting torque for a slip ring motor, it is such motor is increased by improving its power factor by adding external resistance in the rotor circuit from the star connected rheostat. The rheostat resistance being progressively cut out as the motor gathers speed, and addition of external resistance however increases the rotor impedance and so reduces rotor current. So at first the effect of improved power factor predominates the current decreasing effect of the impedance, and hence starting torque is increased. But after a certain point, the effect of increased impedance predominates the effect of improved power factor, and so the torque starts decreasing. Okay, so that is the effect of that is the case of starting torque in case of squirrel cage motor, and that for a slip ring motor. And as I told you, the squirrel cage motor rotor resistance is fixed and small and compared to its reactance. So as a result, at standstill conditions, frequency also rotor frequency is equal to the supply frequency, and starting current I2 of the rotor, though very large in magnitude, lags by a very large angle behind E2 with a result that the starting torque of. So from the discussion of the starting torque, that is from its expression itself, if we compare the starting torque of a Quidel case induction motor and slip ring induction motor, we find that resistance of the squirrel cage motor is fixed, and as it is small as compared to its reactance, which is very large, especially at standstill conditions, where when the x2 equal to actually sx2 s equal to 1. So it is since at supply s equal to unity basically, so actually at standstill condition x2 is comparatively large than its resistance per phase R2. So hence a starting current of the rotor, though it is very large in the magnitude, but lags by a very large angle behind E2. So which with this result, the starting torque per ampere is very poor, and it is roughly 1.5 times the full load torque. So the starting torque is 5 to 7 times the full load current at starting torque. Hence, such motors are not useful when the motor has to start against a very high load. And in case of starting torque for a slip ring induction motor, starting torque in such motor is increased by improving its power factor by adding external resistance in the rotor circuit from the star connected rheostat, and the rheostat resistance being progressively cut out as the motor gathers the speed. And then addition of this external resistance increases the rotor impedance, and so reduces the rotor current. So at first the effect of improvement of power factor predominates the current decreasing effect of impedance, and hence starting torque is increased. But after a certain point, the effect of increased impedance predominates the effect of improved power factor, and so the torque starts decreasing. So with this, if we discuss the conditions of our maximum starting torque, so what we will find, it can be proved that starting torque is maximum when the rotor resistance equal to the rotor reactance. So if this is the expression, if we say differentiate this starting torque with respect to the rotor resistance, so we'll get and if we make it equal to 0, then the expression reveals that R2 should be equal to X2. Okay, this is the condition for the starting torque, and maximum starting torque, of course. And what will be the effect of change in supply voltage on the starting torque? You know, starting torque is expressed is this K1 E2 square R2 A R2 square by X2. Now this E2 is proportional to the supply voltage V. So if we replace this E2 square as V square, so we get not V square, actually some constant into V. So that constant into K1 will generate another constant, that is K3. So starting torque expression will be K3 V square R2 by R2 square plus X2 square. So this actually K3 V square R2 square by this is a J2 square. So actual case is torque is very sensitive to any changes in the supply voltage. Therefore, as you know, since it is torque is proportional to supply voltage, so it is very much sensitive. If any change, any small change also will affect the starting torque. So a change of 5% in the supply voltage, for example, will produce a change of approximately 10%. Okay, in the rotor torque. Okay, so this fact is of importance in start delta and auto transformer starter of the starting induction motor. So as a result, we find that this change in our supply voltage is very much sensitive for the case of starting torque, and that should be noted that any 5% of change in supply voltage will approximately produce 10% in the rotor torque. Okay. Now, if we discuss about the rotor EMF and rotor reactance under running conditions, that we have already discussed, and we have talked about the torque speed characteristics, and before doing the torque speed or torque speed characteristics, we have discussed all these things. So if it is the standstill rotor induced EMF per phase, and X2 is the standstill rotor reactance per phase, and F2 is the rotor current frequency at standstill, and we can say that under running conditions, the induced EMF in the rotor should be slip time, the induced EMF at the standstill conditions, and rotor frequency at rotor induced EMF frequency at slip S will be SF2. So due to decrease in frequency of the rotor EMF, the rotor reactance will also decrease, and so XR equal to SX2. So where ER and XR are the rotor EMF and the reactance under running conditions. So that is the effect of the rotor reactance over say in frequency. So actually decrease in frequency of the rotor EMF, also the rotor reactance will also decrease like this. So and this is the running conditions, ER and XR rotor induced. Okay, so torque in that case under running conditions will be, this is the expressions of the torque proportional to ER IR cos phi 2, T is proportional to phi IR cos phi 2. So this is the rotor EMF per phase under running condition. IR is the rotor current per phase under running condition, and so this is the rotor induced EMF per phase at running conditions. That is ER equal to SE2, where it is the rotor induced EMF at standstill condition, and S is the slip. So this is the rotor current, okay, and this is the rotor power factor. So if you from this figure also, so at standstill at the running condition, rotor power factor cos phi 2 will be equal to R2 by Z2, that is R2 by this root over of R2 square plus S square X2 square, and therefore the torque expression of torque will become, so if you put these values, okay, so IR and cos phi 2, so it will be k phi S E2 R2 by R2 square plus S square X2 square. So as a result, the torque will be like this. Since E2 is proportional to phi, then we can write it is E2 square. So phi and E2 will. So actually torque is K1 is E2 square R2 by R2 plus S square X2 square. So when K1 is another constant here, first one is K, so its value can be proved to be equal to 3 by 2 pi ns. Hence in that case expression will be torque becomes 3 by 2 pi ns AC2 square R2 by R2 square plus S square X2 square. So this is at standstill square is equal to 1. So this will be like this, 3 by 2 pi ns. So this is same as we have discussed earlier. So this is the starting torque at we have discussed earlier. From running torque out of putting S equal to 1, we can get this from the running torque to the starting torque expression. So now if we find out the condition for maximum torque under running conditions, so it will be like, before doing that, once again should I discuss This is the torque under running condition. Is it clear? Okay. And putting S equal to 1, you will get from this expression of the running torque to starting torque. Okay, at standstill conditions, S equal to 1. Now we have to find out condition for maximum torque under running conditions. Torque of a rotor under running condition, we got this expression. Okay, torque equal to K1 A C2 square R2 by R2 square A square X2 square. And condition for maximum torque may be obtained by differentiating this expression with respect to the slip S and then putting it equal to 0. However, it is simpler to put y equal to 1 by t and then differentiate it. Then y equal to 1 by t, if you put y equal to will be y equal to this by this. Okay. So this will be like this. Now differentiate it with respect to slip and put it equal to 0. And that gives you condition for maximum torque at running condition R2 equal to S62. And from this expression also we can get the condition for maximum torque at standstill condition by just putting S equal to 1. Okay. Hence, torque under running condition maximum at that value of the slip S, which makes the rotor resistance per phase equal to the rotor reactance per phase. Okay, S equal to R2 by X2. So in that case, at maximum running condition torque is maximum at that slip which makes the rotor resistance per phase should be equal to the rotor reactance per phase. Or other way, we can say in this way, the rotor reactance per phase should be equal to the rotor resistance per phase. So this the slip is sometimes called SB, and the maximum torque is called TB. Okay, so slip corresponding to this torque S equal to how much? R2 by X2. Now putting R2 equal to S62 in the above expression of the torque, so we get the expression for the maximum torque. So if you put it, so this is the maximum torque, and substituting the value of S equal to R2 by X2 in the equation given in 1 here. So we get maximum torque equal to this, either this or this. So since K equal to 3 by twice by ns, so we have this maximum torque at 2 Newton per at a Newton meter. So this amount of Newton meter. So from this expressions, it is found that maximum torque is independent of rotor resistance as such. However, the speed or slip at which the maximum torque occurs is determined by the rotor resistance. As seen from this above, the torque becomes maximum when rotor resistance equal to rotor reactance equal to rotor resistance. Hence, by varying rotor resistance possible only with the slip ring motors, so maximum torque can be made to occur at any desired slip or motor speed. Maximum torque varies inversely at standstill reactance, hence it should be kept as small as possible. And maximum torque varies directly at the square of the applied voltage. So for obtaining maximum torque at starting is equal to 1, rotor resistance is equal to the rotor reaction. So these are very important observations. So once again I am repeating these observations, that maximum torque is independent of rotor resistance because maximum torque is equal to some constant E2 square by 2x2 and constant equal to 3 by twice by ns, and speed or slip at which maximum torque occurs is determined by the rotor resistance, and torque becomes maximum when rotor reactance equal to its resistance. So by varying rotor resistance, it is possible only in case of slip ring induction motor, maximum torque can be made to occur at any desired slip or speed.